All right, we're now looking at 10.9, which is graphing sine and cosine. So the first thing we're going to look at for sine and cosine is the patterns they follow, those graphs follow. They follow two different patterns, which we've kind of talked about in a few of our looking at what a periodic function is. So first for sine, right, the sine of 0 is 0, so it starts at 0, max, and then it goes up to its max, and then 0, right, so 0, max, 0, and then it goes to its minimum, and then it goes back to 0, and this is really the start of it repeating. So it's 0, max, 0, min, and then this 0 is really going back to here. So 0, max, 0, min, and you can keep doing that forever. In a cosine function, it's max, right, it starts at its max, and then goes 0, min, right, and then to the 0, and then to the max. All right, and again, that max is really back to here. Okay? And so the things to graph this function, really all we need to know is the map, how high up and down it goes, so that comes from our amplitude, and then how far apart we put these, which comes from our period. Okay? So the things we've already been looking at. So let's look at our first one. Come on. It says graph 2 cycles of y equals 4 sine x. So again, we want to know our amplitude. And so our amplitude, remember, comes from the A value, which comes from here. Okay, so our amplitude is the absolute value of 4, which is 4. So this graph is going to be going up 4 and down 4. I don't have enough tick marks for that, so we're gonna make this 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, -1, -2, -3, -4. Put in some of our own tick marks there. And then our period, right? It is 2 pi over b. Technically, there's a 1 in front of that x, so 2 pi over 1, which equals 2 pi. Now, for our period, what we always do is split into 4s. So I say my label is whatever the period is over 4. 2 pi over 4, this reduces to 1/2 pi, which is pi over 2. Okay? Now, why do we label it as 4s? Because every 4 repeats, right? So I go 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's repeating. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's repeating, right? Same thing with cosine. 1, 2, 3. Why is this moving so much? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's repeating, right? 1, 2. Every 4 jumps, it's repeating, okay? So the period happens every 4 steps. So if we cut it into 4s, we know what to label. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to put my first label here as 2 pi. Okay. And I'm labeling every pi over 2. So here's pi over 2. Well, the next pi over, so technically this is 1 pi over 2. Next we have 2 pi over 2. Well, make sure you're paying attention to what reduces, right? So this is really pi. And then we have 3 pi over 2. Okay. I want to label 2 cycles, so usually I go in the forward direction and then the negative. So negative pi over 2, negative pi, negative 3 pi over 2, and negative 2 pi. Then the last thing we have to do is graph with whatever pattern we're supposed to have. So this is sine, and sine goes 0, max, 0, min, 0. Okay. So 0. In our next step at pi over 2, we add our max, which is 4, 0, min, 0. Going the opposite way goes the opposite, right? So I'm at the 0, min, 0, max, 0. Okay? And then I can connect it with nice loops, not straight lines, right? Nice loops going up and down, kind of like a roller coaster. All right, looking at example 2. Graph 2 cycles of y equals -1/4 cosine x. Okay. So our amplitude, again, amplitude comes from the absolute value of a, which is the absolute value of -1/4, which is just 1/4. Our period is 2 pi over b. Right, technically there's a 1 there. And our label is the period over 4. Okay, so we're going to have 0, then pi over 2, then 2 pi over 2, which is just pi, then 3 pi over 2, and then 4 pi over 2, which reduces to 2 pi, right? So those are our labels to get us to that 2 pi. So sometimes doing that makes your graph on the bottom will make your graph cleaner. So we'll make this 1, 2, 3, -1, -2, -3. Then our labels are, well, 0, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, 2 pi, backwards, -pi over 2, -pi, -3 pi over 2, -2 pi. Now this is cosine, so that's max, 0, min, 0, max. So the first thing I'm going to do is graph it as if this negative wasn't here. Yeah, so we'll do it that way. We'll graph it as this negative wasn't here. So our max is 1/4. 0, min, 0. So I'm going 1/4, so I'm only going up a little bit, right? And then same thing, it's the max, 0, min, max, 0, min, 0, max, right? Then graphing everything nice and smooth. Random dots in there accidentally. All right, so max, 0, min, 0, max. Backwards, max, 0, min, 0, max. Okay. Now, though, this negative, what the negative does is it flips it. So everything that's a max is actually a min, and everything that's a min is actually a max. So I'm going to flip that graph. So the zeros stay the same, right? The maxes and mins flip. So the orange is what the actual graph of this looks like. The black is just kind of helping us originally graph it, and then we have to flip it. All right, let's look at another example. graph 2 cycles of y equals cosine of 2x. So again, starting with our amplitude, which is the absolute value of a. There's a 1 here, so the absolute value of 1 equals 1. Our period, right, is 2 pi over b. B comes from here, which equals just pi. And then our label is the period over 4. So that's pi over 4, and that doesn't reduce, so just pi over 4. So let's figure out what our labels are going to be. It's going to start with 0, then 1 pi over 4, then 2 pi over 4. That does reduce to pi over 2. Okay. Then 3 pi over 4, then 4 pi over 4. So pi over 4, pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, and then pi. Same thing backwards. Negative pi over 4, negative pi over 2, negative 3 pi over 4, negative pi. And then this is cosine. So it's max, 0, min, 0, max. So our max is at 1, 0, min, 0, max. Going backwards, max, 0, min, 0, max. And that's our lovely graph there. So this one's technically a lot closer together, but with how we just draw it right on where the lines are, the labels are different. Not really, the graph is different when we label it. Right, looking at example 4, graph 2 cycles of y equals negative sine of pi x. So our amplitude is the absolute value of a, which technically there's a 1 there, so the absolute value of negative 1 equals just 1. So nice and easy. The period is 2 pi over that b, which in this case is this pi, right? So our period just equals 2, and our label is the period over 4, 2 over 4, which is 1/2. Okay. So again, 1/2, so 0, and then 1/2, and then it'd be 2/2, which is just 1, and then it'd be 3/2, and then it'd be 4/2, which is just 2. So kind of, again, always reducing those fractions. These ones don't have any pi's that we have to worry about. Right, but we're just counting by a half. 1/2, 1, 3/2, 2, negative 1/2, negative 1, negative 3/2, negative 2. Now this is sine, and sine is 0, max, 0, min. Back to 0, right? So 0, our max is at 1, max, 0, min, 0. Going backwards, 0, min, 0, max, 0. So that's this function. However, this is a negative. So again, same thing, that negative flips it. So it's really 0. This becomes a min. The zeros stay the same. This becomes a max. 0. So ones that have a negative out in front, I'm sure to make it all the way up there, have that extra step of making sure you flip that flip that graph. Okay, we're going to be doing graphing over several days. So we're going to continue looking at graphing tomorrow. So we'll do the next 2 tomorrow. But this is a good place to start. And then I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day.